Just get to the right scene and all stuff. Alright, cool. Alright, you ready?
Yep.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, play. Hello everybody, welcome to the final video that we are going to be doing with Underrated Gaming's Peaknuckles. Peaknuckles is actually going to be the blue Protoss in top left. We're going to be playing on Ohana LE, and this is going to be Protoss versus Protoss against Chronic Gaming. So, Peaknuckles, you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. What's up? I'm a Grandmaster Protoss. Been playing this game since beta. My strategies. I try to incorporate something different. I'm much more strategy based compared to mechanics. That doesn't mean I try to blind counter someone, but I just try to do something a little bit different and just something that not that people don't see very often.
Okay, well, we're looking at Protoss versus Protoss right now, and the moment you say you're not very intent on mechanics and stuff, that you're focused more on strategy, I immediately am going to the question of what about those crazy micro situations, the Blink Stalker play from Protoss, the Phoenix play from Protoss, the 4-gate versus 4-gate, the 4-gate, whatever he's going to be 4-gating you doing, how are you going to be able to answer any or all of those?
So what happens is that I can negate these situations strictly by, well, it's not saying that like mechanics like god awful because I wouldn't be a Grandmaster Protoss of terrible mechanics, but they're definitely not the best. I'll be honest about that. So what I do is, let's say if I'm encountering Blink Stalker, I efficiently um, I efficiently either split my army or I do a correct strategy to try to win the game. Like if I were to expo, I'd be splitting my army. If I do a one base, either Phoenix or Colossus or something like that, I'd most likely be forced to all in them at basically the time which they're at their weakest, which is what you always want to do as Protoss. Some of the parts that require a lot more mechanics, such as Phoenix, Micro, um, it depends on where I'm at in the game. Sometimes I will try to go for such a tech heavy build where I ignore getting stalkers, which I end up paying for. Um, Actually, what happens is that that same situation happens this game, but I'm able to come back just by using strategy itself, and you'll get to see how I actually handle that here.
Alright, so what's your plan going into PvP, specifically, because first off, for those you watching, there's a ton of different dynamics in PvP that you have just based on map alone, whether it's a 2-base map versus a 4-base map, so Daybreak versus Tal'Drim Altar, you run into incredibly different scenarios, just disregarding the fact that Tal'Drim Altar has no ramp.
Yeah.
But the fact that Warp Gates can completely negate rush distance is incredibly important. You have a 2-base spawn location, you have to run into the threats of cannon rushes, proxy gates, all those annoying plays. But let's just say, Peaknuckles, we're on a small map, a 2-player map. What is your general PvP plan?
Two base short map. I'd probably want to go for your typical standard play, even if it's cheese like a cannon rush or something. I know how to handle it fairly well, especially since I have a good amount of experience handling cannon rush on my own. Um, what I want to try to do is, if it's a short map, probably go for a quick all in. I normally choose the correct ones, or I normally act at the correct time to respond to any expo or anything like that. So that's pretty much my main goal. I mean, that's how it is in all in PvP in general, though. A good amount of people know that.
Alright, well, can you just give an example and just saying in general I go for an all-in? Like, what is the type of all-in against a certain situation that you would do?
So um, let's say I was being Phoenix harassed, uh, but I mainly lose a good amount of probes. I'm behind in econ, but I have a decent amount of army, and let's say my composition was either Colossus or Blink. I'd most likely all in that situation just because of the fact that if I'm behind in econ, I'm not going to catch up. There's no chance, and since I'm behind by probably around standards like 8 probes or something like that, he'd have a good enough time to respond to any catching up I do, he'd probably be able to get whatever tech path that I want, you know, which typically results in either high temp play or Archon play and Robo Colossus. So I'd probably all in that situation. Even with actually whatever composition I have, if you're down by that much, you might as well. Um, this in this game, I actually do something a little different just because of what happens, which I'll explain later.
Okay. So in this game, I'm wondering what you've seen and what you are thinking is going to be coming out of your opponent.
It's pretty tough, especially because of the fact that I didn't take a lot of map control, which is what you should be doing as Protoss. But sometimes I don't want to risk it. The reason why I play so defensive is just because of the fact that I've had some bad luck sometimes when I move out. I don't give myself enough reaction time. Still working on that as well. It's something that you should be doing, but yeah.
Yeah, PvP is notorious for getting taken advantage of because your army's in the wrong spot.
Yes, definitely, and that's what happened here too. I mean, my army was at the ramp, and basically screws me over. I mean, you can see. I'm not sure what time you're at right now, but
8:34. You just got a sentry picked up.
yeah, I mean that's a perfect example. Same for my Colossus. Spawns, in a bad area, get picked off. It's pretty tough actually against this build. This build that he's doing is very good. It works well against Blink Stalker. It works well against Colossus. To me, it's probably one of the safest builds on this map. But if you try to do something like an all-in, it's really hard. So this to me, that build is really just meant for expoing.
Okay. So right now he's got 5 Phoenixes. And he's literally able to kill off a Colossus of yours. That's...
Yeah, that was a big deal. I mean, right here, it's obvious. I lost armies, so I can't one base all in because I have nothing to break a ramp, and it's gonna get picked off now. He got a lot of things for free. Like he's pretty ahead right now. So what I had to rely on was basically bringing it to late game. I'm very comfortable with my PvP late game. There are timings where I can die just like any other matchup, but I know that specifically for my unit composition that even if I'm behind by this much, if I can get to that point, he can't break me.
Oh, and you just picked off your pro, but you're natural.
Exactly, yeah, everything here was pretty bad right now. I think I lost about 8 probes. It sucked, and a Colossus, which is even worse, and a Sentry, so
And a
it was
Stalker.
pretty hard. Yeah, it was pretty tough, because especially since I went for my Colossus tech, which is something I shouldn't have done. I think if I canceled and warped in another round of Stalkers and then got my Colossus tech later, this would be much better for me.
Alright, well, why not go for a Twilight Council and go Blink?
The problem is that me going Blink right now would be very late, and he has a good amount of Phoenixes, so he can pretty much graviton my Stalkers. And I don't have enough Stalkers. I started off with more of a Zealot Immortal, so me getting a good amount of Stalkers just to harass is, it's going to be pretty much late once I get there. So my only hope is just to Expo.
Okay.
And I could tell this guy right here was metagaming me, which is why I was kind of calling him out on it, because I've only done this build maybe like 25% of the time against him. So 25, 30. So I was kind of surprised that he just goes straight for this build.
It's possible he's a Smurf, and he's got a couple other accounts that he's played you on, and you've just coincidentally gone on them too.
Yeah, definitely. But I'll still be able to handle that situation. Typically against Phoenix build, what prevents them from killing you is what I'm doing right now, which is walling off my ramp. It'll be heavy Zealot based, so if you're able to wall, you basically stop him from really ever doing anything against you. Especially if you get cannons. What counters Phoenix is cannons, unless you have Blink Stalkers, of course, or maybe even Archons. But you're not gonna have you're not gonna have that right now, especially for what I went.
Do you ever open Phoenixes yourself?
Yeah, I do. It's a pretty strong build. It allows for a good transition for late game, especially if you know how to use it. I believe I go for that transition this game late game as well. But what it allows you to do is that you can get to late game very fast, like the late game point that you want to get to. A lot of people think, oh, it's just going to be a Colossus war, and then it comes down to who has better upgrades. Then it comes down to who has Archons. It's not that. You're going to need a little bit of that, but it's not purely that. I've been in a lot of games where the guy had double my Colossus, and I still win just because my composition was better. And it didn't include just heavy Archon Colossus. It's a lot more to that.
Do you go for Mothership?
Yes, Mothership is definitely good, but let's say if you have Colossus, Archon Gateway, and Mothership, it still loses to another composition, um, fairly, fairly badly. It's just like it's pretty bad if you just go that and you think that's gonna win you late game. If it's somewhat even or somewhat close, you're not gonna win late game with that composition. So some good thing that people don't know is the fact that late game carriers are very good against in PvP. Um, what else? Right here, actually, you see me go for the Templar Archives, and that's because Storm is very good late game. People don't know that either.
Really?
Yeah, some people just keep thinking that it's a lot worse than the Colossus. Colossus.
Well, I guess Storm.
Massing Colossus.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
Storm has the advantage of actually being able to hit air units, so that's always good.
Yeah, exactly. See, right here, especially, you can tell he obviously had a lead. Um, Normally, when you go to build, you want to push very quickly when you get your first Colossus, but it's still going to be pretty tough for him, especially since I have high temps now. Uh,
Ah, you feedback. Ah, awesome.
Yeah, I made a mistake. I should have warped, but I got very greedy because my intentions were to use them for Psy Storm. That was purely my fault. I should have just warped them just to save them, and I would have been able to just warp in a couple more for Psy Storm. So I know I'm behind, so a good comeback is, in my opinion, Psy Storm, because you're not going to catch up in Colossus production. You need something completely different.
All right, all right. So, just outline High Templars in PvP because no one else does this.
What do you mean exactly?
I mean, like, are you going to use them to also do things like Warpism, Harass? Are you going to actually focus more on dealing with the Phoenix with them? Are you going to have specific targets in order to decide Storm? Are you going to do something atypical with them or something? Or is it just go with your army and just try and just get the best Storms in a direct engagement you can?
What I do is I actually I use them to avoid a direct engagement. I originally used them to deal with Phoenix since he made so many, and I used them to delay by just microing one high temp at a time. So later on, or even late game, what you do is you side storm before you even engage, before your army's even close to him. You just pull out a high temp and you storm. He's not going to engage you if he's going to be down 40 to 80 health in a good majority of his units. Just because of the fact that you're gonna be so behind already, you're gonna die in like 2 volleys rather than like 3 or 4. So it's a big difference, and since it allows you to delay, you can easily get any other tech that you want to help you out.
All right. All right. So now, you got Double Forge going on. When do you go for Forge? What's your timing on that one?
Forge is a big deal. If I wasn't behind, and let's say it's even, what you do is what's standard is that you do single or double robo. I prefer double robo, and I do double forge, and that helps you out with winning the Colossus fight really easily. If you're scared because you got Archon before you, that's where your building positioning comes in. If you choke the Archons or something like that, it's going to help you out a lot. And if he tries to harass you, you're going to have more Colossus, so you should win. So with that being said, double forge as quick as you can is pretty good. You can normally get those off 2 base, double forge and double robo. And then when you get to your 3rd base, that's when you start to want to include Archons and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then eventually it comes down to who has more Archons, right, and who has more Colossus, because you have more units tanking the Colossus.
Okay. I'm curious about Archons. Do you normally always make them with the Templar Archives so you can also get Storm, or do you sometimes use a DT Shrine for them?
I don't use DT just because of the fact that it's. I feel like I could be using the money for a couple more zealots, which just helps you a lot in tanking all the damage and whatnot. I mean, late game, we all know it kind of like they kind of mill away fast, but it's something good to have. I mean, as you start transitioning later and later, you're able to sack those units or use them for harassment and slowly get the army that you want, um, which is, in my opinion, high temp or archon with carriers, which is why going Stargate first allows you to easily transition into that. And if you encounter like a two base Colossus push, if you go a single Robo and single Stargate like what Chronic Gaming did, you're able to do Void Ray, and Immortal, which actually beats Colossus and Gateway.
Why is
Yeah,
that?
so just because of the fact that, especially with the range now, if you have one or two Colossus in your army and the rest are Void Ray and Immortals, he has nothing to deal with the Void Rays, or he has nothing to deal with the Immortals, because a good amount of his army will be invested in Zealots, which is what they normally do. I mean, you can see as right here, he actually does that. If you just have enough just to melt the initial uh, Zealots away, you can easily win with Immortal Void Ray. They just kill Colossus so fast, and they can soak up damage, especially the bonus damage with Void Rays against Colossus. The only counter to it is Archons, but by that time, you should have a decent amount of Archons yourself. I mean, there have been a good amount of games where I actually win against Colossus Archon, and he has more Colossus than me by just stop making Colossus and making more Immortals and Archons, and you basically win.
Alright, well, that just helped my PvP a lot.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And you see here, he tries to push me. Has a he has a he has a +1 upgrade advantage, and then I stormed him earlier, which helped delay and actually get my mothership out earlier than his, I believe. Yep,
Yep.
by like half a mothership, I think. So he can't really do anything.
Yeah, and do you ever I mean, um, are you able to successfully snipe the observer of your opponent? Ever? Like,
Uh,
do you go for that, or is that something you don't even try and do?
with I don't even try to do. It's just really hard to see with all the cloak crap going on. But I mean, yeah, like there's so many things cloaked. It's really hard to see. So what I try to do is, well, if I open Stargate, or sometimes I even build like one or two Phoenixes, and they one hit. Is it one hit KO? I think it might be one hit KO. Maybe one more shot. So 3 shots total just to auto attack the observer, which helps you a lot. Sometimes it also depends on if you have observer speed. That may even screw you over because your observer runs in faster than your army. So I learned actually from experience not to get observer speed. Uh,
Actually, that's
so
something I completely forgot to mention. I meant to in the PV video. I noticed that you got that. I wanted to talk about that, but completely missed that one. I thought it was so cool that you had done that. So, hope you guys who also watched the PVT video realize that he did get that in PVT.
yeah, just PvP, especially Mothership Wars, it sucks. Like having a couple games where I had actually like 3 or 4 observers. That should be good. Anytime that should be good, but that screws you over just because of the fact that your observers ran in first and they die instantly. Um, yeah, it's really something stupid to lose by. But right here, I was able to get my composition. I think do I even? Yeah, I was able to get my composition. And what people don't know for late game 2 is that feedbacking in a mothership war is incredibly helpful. For some reason, people don't do that. Yeah, it's like a lot of things people don't use. People don't use carriers. People don't use void rays as much. People don't use high temps for feedback. They just think, oh, they're archons or maybe they're storm. I rarely see people use storm though. So if you're able to use feedback in storm, it's very good late game. It it pretty much helps you melt away the zealots they have, which is even better. You're wasting less shots of your Colossus on zealots and more on the Colossus themselves. So that's what normally happens. That's why Archons are so good too. So what happens here is that he actually gets a good spread. I back up. I didn't really care as long as I get my feedback on his mothership. I know it's pretty much GG, and he didn't get any high attempts in that army. Once you get vortex, it's pretty much auto loss.
Alright, so well, we're about 27-30, about to see your engagement there. We're seeing him pushing forward. I got the mothership selected so we can see if the feedback lands, but the mothership, I believe, actually moves more slowly than the, oh, yeah, I think moves more slowly than High Templar.
Let me see, I think so too. Oh yeah, yeah it does. Oh wow, yeah. I did not know that. That's something good to know.
Oh,
But
cool. Well, I'm glad to point that out for you.
yeah, so something like that is a really big deal too. It's just it's because of the fact that it's just really important just to get the feedback off.
You gotta, oh, you're preparing for an Archon to it, that's why you use the second Vortex.
Yeah, that's what you do in PvZ as well, because sometimes a good amount of your army dies by the Blue Lords. So if you can have enough time to Vortex a second time, you get your Archons up. And even though the exact timing of it, I believe, is like 17 seconds. No, 12 seconds. Oh, it's 12 seconds. Oh yeah, 5 seconds for warp in. 12 seconds for warping of Archon, so 17 seconds total to get your Archon out. But we know it's not going to be picture perfect because you're not going to immediately just focus on that. So basically the second Vortex helps out a lot. And some things to do if you can for defensive Vortexes is also cannons take 40 seconds to build. You have double Vortex, including and plus I think an extra second or half second for immunity time. So you can build cannons around the vortex too, which is pretty smart. Sometimes if you have extra resources.
That's really clever. That's really clever. I'm
Yeah,
thoroughly impressed.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Also, air upgrades. Do you ever get the air upgrades?
Air upgrades, yeah. When I go my carrier build, pretty much, yeah. I go from single Stargate, single Robo all one base to double Stargate. No, I go single Stargate, single Robo to double Robo, single Stargate, and I add on a council from that, and then I go from that to Archons, and then when I start producing my air, I get like a +2 or +1 around there. I normally get a +1 pretty fast on my air, off of the beginning of my second base or something like that.
Okay. PvP is really hard to make a big comeback on. PvT, you can do like a Charizard Archon, High Templar type of army comp. Is there a similar army composition that's good for PvP in coming back?
I think probably, let's say you're behind like half a base or something like that. For my situation right now, I'll admit some of it was just because I got pretty lucky that he didn't push me within like a 1 minute window of timing, but after that I think I would be able to hold a good majority of it. But coming back would most likely be if the other player doesn't go Phoenix build is pretty good. Another one would probably be High Temps, pretty good. High Temp Storm, or unit composition. So if you go Colossus, if the player goes Colossus, you go a heavy Immortal build instead, and that'll help you out a lot. War Prism Immortal too, it can help you out a lot. Like there've been a couple games where I was actually up like about 1k resources in army, and this is probably the beginning of the natural base. And what happens is that if you get outpositioned by War Prism Immortal, War Prism is actually a lot more efficient than Colossus itself. If you're able to do that. So some strategies like that. A good one is if you get to like carriers, as I mentioned before. Some people might think it's a joke, but carriers are pretty good, especially since Blink Stalkers don't really counter it as well, since they have I think an 8 range, yeah, 8 range, and you're dealing with not just carriers but a gateway army. So, okay, Stalkers blink forward to counter carriers. Well, you're gonna have most likely gateways because zealots because you're gas heavy. So Stalkers don't do as well as they should be, and if they get Void Rays, then you should have enough to deal with that. Especially since sometimes you won't even have pure zealots. You might have some Stalkers just because carriers take so long to build that if you spend efficiently, you'll be able to do both. But some strategies like that are pretty good comebacks, in my opinion. I mean, some people might think it's ridiculous, but I mean, it's got me out of like it's gotten me like so many wins just because I was down either half an expo or something like that. And we all know that's a big deal in a mirror matchup.
Hmm. That's really, really actually. That's honestly one of the most interesting analyses on comebacks that I've actually ever heard. So right there, just thank you for that.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
I mean, because that weird stuff is what catches people off guard and is really able to get you back in the game. And I know I've personally have fallen prey many times to PvP going, ooh, he got Colossi faster than me, throw down another Robo, go more Colossi, and then meanwhile he's done the exact same thing and he already had a lead and there's just doomed to begin with. So that's
Yeah,
I like that analysis a lot.
yeah.
Um, but I say it's pretty good for PvP analysis. Do you want to just say any parting words?
Uh, no, not exactly. I mean, the other good thing too I wanted to mention was the fact that the strategy not only catches them off guard, you're not relying totally on a surprise factor, but just the unit composition itself is very efficient. It's like equivalent almost to um, like an infestor broodlord, I guess. Like if you're able to get to that point in PvP, actually, like I've had a couple games where my opponent stuck with Colossus Archon, and even got a mothership earlier. But if I go carriers and either zealots or archons, I was able to trade probably 20 of my army supply for like the 100 to 120 that he had, which
Wow.
was a really good amount. It's just crazy how efficient it is. It's ridiculous. Since I think it has probably like one of the top DPS in the game. I forgot the exact order, but I know it's up there. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it and whatnot.
Yep. Alright, so thank you all very much for watching, guys. Feel free to go to urgaming.net so you can see more of Underrated Gaming's peoples. There's not just Peaknuckles on the team, but a lot of other cool guys, so feel free to check out the other videos that Peaknuckles made as well for PvZ and PvT. And we've got a couple other people from UR made videos, including Taeguk, who's a really strong Zerg player, but underratedgaming.net. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you learned and hope you enjoyed. So we're going to just go ahead and say goodbye for now.
Later.